excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So can you give us a little bit about your story?
Well, maybe say a few words about Tophatter first.
Can you guys speak out of context?
Yeah.
I don't have a very loud voice, unfortunately, so I'll try and project, but...
Yeah, so what's Tophatter?
Yeah, so Tophatter is a discovery shopping app. Easiest thing to do is go to the App Store or the Play Store and download it. We run live auctions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's a little bit like eBay, except everything starts at $1, and our auctions take 90 seconds to finish. So it's fast. It's much more engaging. Everything is in real time. Our mission is not too different than Netflix's. Our mission is to spark moments of fun and fulfillment, which is not too different than say Netflix. We exist to entertain. We want shopping to be fun. So anyway, we're gonna do about $500 million in sales this year.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
Yeah, so it's a lot. So check it out. Our average price point is like 10 to 15 bucks. So it's a lot of transactions that we're driving every single day to get there. That's a little bit about Tophatter. Check it out and download it.
So you're 8 years in this company. What keeps you going?
Yeah, so it's been more than 8 years at this point. So I quit my job in 2008, right before the financial crisis. It was a pretty bad idea. Made things a little more challenging. But so I've been doing this for a while, and I would say the thing that sustained us, the team, is like the folks that I've been working with. So my co-founder, I went to Stanford. I graduated in 05. I met my co-founder at Stanford. We both did CS together over there. We were roommates. We were roommates in college. We were roommates after college. And so we always talked about starting something together. And so when we quit our jobs in 2008, it just felt like something we've been talking about a long time, and we've kind of been through the ups and downs together. And the team has actually grown since the team's obviously grown since 2008, and we keep bringing more and more interesting people and more talented people as the business has grown. So like we just hired a VP of engineering last year who was our TA from our time together at Stanford. So it just feels like a big family that we're working that's working together on tough business problems. So
how big is the team now?
We're about 90 people. We've got 80 people here in San Francisco and about 10 people across the Pacific in China.
That's great. And then you talked a little bit about knowing your co-founder really well, have gone through all that stuff together. What is the basis of this very successful relationship?
I mean, this is just one data point, obviously.
Yeah.
But for us, I think we were kindred spirits from pretty early on. So we're both kind of local kids. We both grew up with similar interests. We both studied the same thing in college. We both come from similar socioeconomic backgrounds. So a lot of things aligned for us. So that when we started working together, we were just emotionally attuned for the ups and downs together. So. And that was the starting point. So that, as the rock, we've been able to build a fantastic team around us over the course of the last 8 years.
That's great. So Ashvin, you're one of these founders who's gone through a pivot, you've gone through a recap, both really painful things that hopefully are never going to happen to you. I think you survived. What was it?
Yeah. So I've got a lot of war stories over the last 8-10 years. Many of them involving VCs that I no longer have good relationships with. So,
I mean, that's VC.
You're one of the good ones. So we've had a roller coaster over the last 8 years. And I would say the one thing that's thinking back, the things that have sustained us and the way we've gone through it is having a kind of core cultural value around relentlessness and hunger. So when we reflect on what are the values of the people that we want to build a team around, and I think this is particularly pertinent for marketplace-oriented businesses because marketplaces are a grind. Anybody that's working on a marketplace knows it is an absolute grind. There are things going wrong all the time. Either the demand's not working or the supply's not working, and you just gotta, you just battle your way through it. There's a Winston Churchill quote that I really like. Success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I think that sums up marketplace businesses. But in order to do that, you have to have an incredible amount of hunger. You have to have an incredible amount of relentlessness. And so the folks that thrive in our organization are the ones that exhibit those qualities.
Totally. So what are some pieces of advice you have for first-time founders or founders of online marketplaces, businesses that are really early on in the journey that you wish you had known?
Yeah, so I guess the number one thing I would say is that it's a totally a marathon and not a sprint. So as a marketplace, I think it's very difficult for a marketplace to do better than doubling every single year. And if you just do the math out, it takes years and years to build a really, really big business. At a certain point, I think you built a strong enough moat that you have certainty that the future is going to be positive, but it takes a lot of years to get there. So being prepared to plan for the long haul, I think is something that I didn't know when I first started. Certainly when just thinking back on my own journey, there were a lot of entrepreneurs that I had relationships with when I first founded the company, and since then,
Here's the mic.
sure. Since then, several of them have gone on to found multiple companies and sell multiple companies, and I'm still here building this marketplace that we started. So it's just interesting to see, and I think it's a reflection of how hard it is to build a marketplace. So that's one thing. The second thing is an attention to the data. And being very metrics oriented. There's a fluency of data within our organization that connects how we talk about our strategy and where we should be focusing. And so we're always talking about what our unit economics are. We're always talking about acquisition in terms of numbers. We're always talking about our supply side in terms of numbers. We're always looking for more insight that's going to help us figure out where we want to send our resources.
Thank you. So since you start talking about numbers, what are the metrics that you and the rest of the team are obsessed with? Every single day there is fluency across the whole team.
Yeah, so, for a business like ours, we really focus on our cost of user acquisition and then the LTVs of our customers. But peeling back a layer there, we're very focused on payback. So we've been able to build so one thing, the business has been profitable since 2015. When I say profitable, we don't make a lot of profits, we're sort of break even. Some quarters we're up, some quarters we're down, but we try and run the business with basically EBITDA 0. And for us to do that, we need to make sure that we're very efficient with our cash. And so the number that we look at from a cost of acquisition standpoint is payback. So if we spend $100 today on customer acquisition, how quickly does that $100 come back to us? So that's a really important number for us. And then we're also looking at LTV and customer engagement. So customer engagement takes a while to play out, but we're always looking for early indicators that we have strong customer engagement, and then we're able to model that out and understand if the money that we're spending to drive growth, if it's profitable or not.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you a question that probably you've been tired of answering. So Wish.com, big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
People probably compare you with them a little bit. Are they going to make it? Do you care about them? Are you scared? What's different?
Yeah, so I don't know if people are familiar with Wish. They're, I don't know their exact numbers, but my guess is that they're 10x bigger than us. They're also a discovery shopping app in a similar space, and so people compare us pretty often. Our take on Wish is that we're really excited for Wish. We think this is it's the first inning. Amazon likes to talk about day one, that it's always day one. They're always trying to reinvent, and in many ways we see the same thing in our space. It's such a large space, and it still feels very, very early. A lot of our customers are the same customers that shop at TJ Maxx and Dollar Store and Dollar General, and a lot of these guys, they proudly tout that they don't have websites. So 5 years, 10 years from now, when everybody realizes that, hey, these are not the businesses of the future, Wish and us and other discovery shopping apps are going to have a strong lead over everybody else that's going to be starting similar businesses.
So you've been one of these founders that in an era of very cheap venture capital, you haven't raised much. Why have you been a contrarian?
So as an e-commerce business and as a marketplace, I think especially in e-commerce, e-commerce is a very capital intensive space. And so we're I would say that it's not that we've not tried to raise per se. We've had experiences where we've gone and tried to raise, and it's been hard for us to raise. And so in 2014, we did go out and try to raise a round, and it was really challenging. And as a result of that, we said, you know what, we need to control our own destiny. So we don't want another situation where we've got to go out and talk to. I think I talked to 100 investors, and got various different forms of no from half of them, and the other half just didn't respond. So it's like there's just bad news all around. So when we were faced with that, we said, you know what, this is awful. Let's not be in a situation where somebody else controls our destiny. Let's try and get the business to a point where we're profitable, where we can, where if we want to slow down, we can. If we want to speed up, we can. So that was the starting point of that. And since then, we raised more money since 2014, but we didn't actually go out and find the money. The investors actually came to us. And so in 2016, we raised around $15 million, where the investor actually found us and said, I'm really excited about what you're doing. Here's a check for $15 million. It was on good terms. We didn't really need the money at that point in time, but we felt like if we had it, it would help with some of our risk and let us take a little bit more risk, let us learn a little bit faster, and execute on it. And our attitude today is still similar in that I do feel like I'm always quote unquote raising. If I'm always open to a raise, so I'm not like anti-raising, I'm not contrarian in that way, but I just don't like to be beholden to it like a lot of other companies.
Have you pitched SoftBank yet?
We have not pitched SoftBank. I mean, every entrepreneur wants to get in front of SoftBank. I don't know if I think their minimum check size is like 100. Seed investment.
Yeah. Mas is going to be in New York this weekend, so if anybody's interested, they're going to be there. So inequality is a long-term trend in the Western world. So what are some of the other products and services that your customers really love? Like, and what else could you do for them?
Yeah, so our customer is a mass market shopper. Our customers shop at Walmart, they shop at QVC and HSN. They're like your classic mass market shop. We don't have a lot of shoppers in San Francisco. I think our biggest city in California is Sacramento. Our biggest cities in the U.S. are like Houston, I think, and then there's like Las Vegas and Jacksonville. They're suburban cities, but not like these kind of major tech hubs or the coastal cities. And so our shoppers shop at Walmart, the dollar stores, and I think to Niko's point, they're a value-conscious customer. And one of the things that we feel, one of our thesis, one thing we feel really strongly about is the brand tax is going to go away. So we have a team in China that works to get a lot of our supply that we sell on Tophatter, and one thing we observe is that the access to merchandise in China the access to manufacturing is really easy. So people are able to build relatively high quality merchandise for cheap these days. They just haven't found the channels to get it out to the rest of the world. So one thing we observe is that I think that the access to this merchandise and access to good value merchandise is only going to get easier and easier over time, and it's going to be distributed through platforms like Tophatter and Wish.
That's pretty cool. Do you guys have any questions for Ashvin, or should I keep going?
No.
Do you have, like, how do you do inventory? Do you have inventory? Do you have sort of inventory risk?
So as a marketplace, we don't take inventory ourselves. We work with a large supplier base. And so what we tell our suppliers to do is to give us spreadsheets of all of their inventory. So they give us all their inventory. And so in our system, we'll have, say, 5 to 10 million things that we can put in front of our buyers on any given day. Next step is that we have an algorithm, set of data models that run and analyzes that inventory to pick the things that we should be showing to our buyers in that given moment. And then we run those things. We run those things, and then we collect the information on what did well and what didn't do well, and that goes back. That's a feedback loop back into the data model. So that's sort of how our system works as it relates to inventory. Yeah.
How do you think about the safety of your marketplace in regards to the authenticity of the goods and the nature of the buyer and seller?
Yeah, good question. It's a question about authenticity and trust and safety of the marketplace. So every marketplace has to deal with trust and safety issues, and our marketplace is no different. So we avoid selling, for our sellers that are based in China, we have like a blanket rule that we don't sell branded goods from there. So that's number one. Number two, if a buyer feels like they received a counterfeit item, we tell them not to return it to the seller. We tell them to return it directly to us, and then we're able to verify it. And if it turns out that it was fraudulent, then we kick the seller off the platform. Number three, the average price point on our site is 10 to 15 bucks. So there's not like a really strong incentive to defraud people on a $10 to $15 transaction. So we actually don't see a ton. We do see some bad actors, just like any other marketplace does, but we don't see a lot of risk as it relates to counterfeit. Good question. Yeah.
Do you see this permanently being online, or would you start looking at offline?
Yeah. So the question: do we see it being primarily online? I guess I don't have a strong opinion on that. It would be we are exploring ways to bring this more offline. Our mission is to spark moments of fun and fulfillment, and we can do that in an online setting and an offline setting. But I wouldn't say it's in any plans today. Like right now, it feels like the market is so fluid, and we're seeing so much traction doing one thing and doing it pretty well that we just want to keep doing that. Good question. Yeah.
Does Tophatter use any kind of loyalty programs or gamification to encourage repeat buyers?
So we don't have a loyalty program yet today, but if you play with the app, you'll see that it is a gamified experience in that we sell things in an auction format. The auction feels like a game. You're competing for a product. We don't have buyers. We have winners. You know, you won the item at a certain price, and so it does feel like a game in that way, and that's partly why we're able to drive pretty high conversion rates as opposed to like a boring retail app.
Who's the customer?
So the demographics of the customer? Yeah, so the demographics of the customer today is, it's about 60% women, 40% men, in say 35 to 55 years of age, in a lower income bracket. So like a lower, which is the primary income bracket in the United States, like less than $70,000 household income. But what we've observed is that the customer base really is influenced by the types of things that we're selling. So 2 years ago, we didn't sell a lot of electronics, and our customer base was 90% female. Today, we sell a lot of electronics, and we see a pretty strong male customer base. So as we look into the future, we're always thinking about what additional categories can we go into, and how is that going to help us access broader and broader customer groups, because we are catering to a mass market shopper. So we have the opportunity to break into a lot of different demographics.
Any other questions?
Why the 90 seconds? Was there different tests you did in terms of where was the best point?
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly 90 seconds. That's sort of like the pithy line. It's around there. We have tested going faster, going shorter. I think the key thing is that we want the experience to be snackable. I mean, it's something we talk about internally. It should be when you're standing in line at Starbucks, you should be able to flip this thing open and find something interesting and make a purchase. Or if you're waiting to pick up your kid at soccer practice, like this is something easy to do that would rival playing a game. So I like to think about, internally we talk about ourselves as the anti-Amazon, in that Amazon is all about search. 97% of our purchases are not preceded by a search query. So people open up the app, see something, like our data models present things to the customer that we think they're going to like, and they make a purchase. Amazon is all about efficiency. We're all about engagement. The opposite. Amazon likes to save people's time. We like to help customers spend time. You know, we're trying to get you to burn time with us, not actually save it. So that's how we think about the world. And in a mobile world, what does that mean? That means, okay, we want you to burn time in small chunks. 20 years ago, we might say we want you to burn time in front of the TV, and that would be QVC or HSN. So in many ways, we think about ourselves as a modern day QVC. If we were to design QVC today, we wouldn't say, hey, let's go do it on cable. Cable is dying. There's no way we do that. We'd sit around the table and say, let's do it on mobile. And what does that look like? Is it video on mobile, or is it something closer to a game? And so our thesis is that it's going to look closer to a game, at least initially.
What sort of personalization tactics do you use, or what part of the platform or experience is personalized?
We use machine learning in a bunch of different places. So there's personalization on the customer side, and that if you open up the app, you'll see a different view than other people opening up the app. So we'll sort things to the top that we think that, based on the information we have about you, which initially is pretty limited, but over time we're able to build, we can customize the sort. On the supply side, we do a lot of machine learning to try and predict how much demand there is for a product. So our sellers upload millions, like I said, we have 5 to 10 million SKUs in the system. We can't test every single one of those SKUs. So we run that through a data model to give us a sense of what we think each of these things would do if we were to offer them to customers. And again, that's another feedback loop that we're constantly working on. Yeah?
Do you use any third-party data to enhance the algorithms that you're using for recommendations?
Good question. Today we don't. there are data sets that we're excited about plugging into at some point in time. We're building our own product database. It would be really helpful to take, if other people have product databases, we could definitely use that in our algorithms, in our data models, but today we don't. Yeah.
Are you also thinking about like inventory age or anything about what's the sense of people to like, so that the sellers don't get this to leave? Or is that like, you don't think about that?
Is it inventory age?
Yeah, like trying to make sure that people get their listings up eventually.
Yes, good question. So that's sort of like the promise to the seller. So we don't promise the seller that we're going to sell everything in their inventory. So we try and set the expectations up front that we're going to sell what we think is going to perform. Sellers tell us what they want to clear for every single item, and we only offer the item if our prediction model says that we think we're going to clear that price. So that's sort of our promise to the seller. Okay.
How do you do shipping?
Yeah, so as a marketplace, we don't do any of the shipping ourselves. We just connect the buyer and the seller, and we facilitate the shipping. So we ask sellers to input a tracking number when a purchase is made, and we watch that track. We pull for that tracking number and make sure that it gets to the buyer. Once it gets to the buyer, only then do we release payment to the customer. That's another way, actually, that we, from a trust and safety standpoint, that we make sure that the customer's getting a good experience, because we're holding the seller's money until the transaction actually clears and finishes.
How do you recruit sellers?
Sorry?
How do you recruit sellers?
Right. So this is one of the parts of the business that we found easier than we expected initially. There are a lot of sellers in China that are just trying to find customers outside of the country, and we have a team in China. We've got 10 people there. So boots on the ground that are going and shaking hands, kissing babies, like meeting all the sellers, going to factories, meeting the sellers, and convincing them to sell with us. There are actually not a lot of places to sell on the internet. There's like Amazon, eBay, there's Wish, Alibaba, there's not that many. And so all these sellers don't want to have their business just stuck on just Amazon and eBay. So when we come in there and we say, we got a little bit of volume for you, we can diversify your business, they are stoked about that and they're willing to work with us.
That's awesome. Cool.
So Ashvin, thank you so much. Clearly you have an amazing command of your business, which is incredible to see. So let's give it to Ashvin. Thank you.